Welcome. So glad you tuned in to Leap of Faith as we explore Altos. Taken from the Latin altus, meaning high, we feature top priority news stories. We join our editorial and digital teams at Camzel with trending stories from our local weekly Catholic newspaper, as well as Caribbean, Vatican, and global stories. Take the leap with us, hot off the press.
Good evening and welcome to Altos, a weekly Catholic news program here on Trinity TV. Thank you very much for joining us. Our top stories this week. The Pope calls for peace and an end to the violence between Israel and Palestine. Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon mourns the loss of life and calls on the local church to pray for an end to the Mideast conflict. Corpus Christi Carmelite sister Petronella Joseph is honored with a farewell mass as she retires as principal of Corpus Christi College. And later we speak with Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Minister Amory Brown, on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. But our top story today, an appeal from the head of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis, for peace in the Holy Land.
Speaking at the Wednesday, October 11th General Audience in St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis expressed his sorrow and concern for the war that has broken out between Israel and Hamas, and mourned the many people who have been killed and injured. He also prayed for hostages. The pontiff said Israel had the right to defend itself.
It is a right of who is being attacked to defend themselves. But I am very worried for the situation in which Palestinians are living in Gaza. There have been many innocent victims. Terrorism and extremism do not help to reach a solution to the conflict between Israel and Palestine, but they increase hate, violence, and revenge, and they only make each other suffer. The Middle East does not need war, but peace. A peace that is built on justice, on dialogue, and on the courage of fraternity.
And Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon is calling on the local Catholic community here in TNT to join the Church's universal call to pray for peace in the Middle East. Contacted in Rome, where he is currently attending the Synod on Synodality, His Grace shared his thoughts on the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict.
We all have to mourn when we see the destruction that's happening in the Middle East right now. The attack of Hamas and the loss of life to Israel, the attack of Israel, the loss of life to the Palestinians. Every loss of life is a moment of reflection, a moment of mourning. It's hard to understand this conflict from where we are in the Caribbean, but this is an ancient conflict that goes right back to the 1940s and the resettlement of Israel. It's a conflict that has been happening and bubbling over and over and over again. Let us pray for peace in the Middle East. Nothing is solved by war, and nothing is solved by trying to obliterate a people. Let us pray that we will find a way to support and that they will find a way to peace.
And we'll have more on this situation when Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, joins us live on set. To other stories now, truth and mercy took center stage as the 16th Ordinary General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops continued at the Vatican in Rome. Archbishop Gordon, president of the Antilles Episcopal Conference of Bishops, shared with Altos some of the main points of the discussion on the fourth day of the plenary session.
So today we were able to move the method to talk about truth and mercy meeting. And we did that around a table with 12 of us. And what was the real thing was that we had people who saw truth being priority and mercy being priority, through the conversations, we came to truth and mercy both must meet. Both are important. Both must be held together. That's very important because practically, there are all kinds of implications for this. How do we deal with all the pastoral challenges where we have people who are divorced, who are in a relationship that is not marriage, cohabitation, LGBTQIA coming into our communities, in one part of the world, polygamy. How do we deal with all of that? What we learned today is that if we listen deeply and carefully to each other, there is a convergence, both of hearts and minds. There's a respect, and there's a seeing of the issue from another side. And that's the invitation that we received today. And what a wonderful invitation.
Archbishop Gordon speaking from Rome, and you can stay tuned to our Archdiocesan and Catholic News website and social media for daily updates on the Synod on Synodality from His Grace. Sister Petronella Joseph has been hailed as a giant for championing the ideals of the Corpus Christi Carmelite congregation and managing Corpus Christi College for 53 years. A Mass was held on October 6th at St. John the Evangelist RC Church in Diego Martin to celebrate her retirement. Catholic News senior reporter Laura Pickford-Gordon has more.
Sister Petronella Joseph retired as the longest-serving principal of the Corpus Christi College. Chief Celebrant Archbishop Emeritus Robert Rivas said she became the least to ensure the young entrusted to her care was the greatest.
Her life has impacted many through her ministry in education. She has influenced young lives, but she has also had an impact on the church in Trinidad and Tobago and in other territories.
Archbishop Rivas highlighted Sister Petronella's witness to Christ in her role as educator.
Through Sister Petronella, the voice of Christ has echoed through the corridors of this Corpus Christi Carmelite College for more than 50 years.
Sister Petronella says her 50-plus years of service at Corpus Christi College was all-embracing.
Fulfilling and filled with God's love. I enjoyed doing what I was called to do because I always try to live out my motto, to love is to serve. I am Lara Pickford-Gordon for Altos.
And congratulations to her. Well, October is the month of Mary, a time when the Church encourages devotion and prayer to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of Jesus. October is also a month when the Church specifically invokes Mary through the prayer of the Holy Rosary. Holy Ghost Father John Theodore, well known in the Archdiocese as a Marian priest, tells us more.
The most famous exorcist in the world today was a priest called Father Gabriel Amorth. And one day he was casting out Satan. Satan said to him, "Every Hail Mary is a hammer on my head." He said, if these Catholics knew the power of the Rosary, they would destroy all my works. Father John Nicola is a world expert on Satan, and when people ask him, where do you work? He said, I work in a Marian shrine. And they ask him why. He said, I'll tell you why. He said, in my work with Satan, I've discovered if you really want to cripple Satan, teach people to say the Rosary. So the Rosary is a weapon we have against any evil in our life.
Lord, 8 years after publishing Laudato Si, an encyclical on stewardship of God's creation, Pope Francis is again urging world leaders to act with an apostolic exhortation titled Laudate Deum, Praise God. Here's a short clip of the promotional video.
Today, a single generation can experience the acceleration of global warming. We're not talking about centuries or millennia, but just a few years. We do not have to look far to find the cause. It is us. How are we going to take care of our common home if we conform to the logic of maximum profit at the lowest cost? This logic gives power to a few and contributes to the fact that the most disadvantaged suffer especially the consequences of climate change. In Laudato Si, Pope Francis already addressed the consequences of the process of environmental degradation.
Well, taking a look at what's happening in the wider Caribbean, Haitian bishops are pleading for help as crime and gang activity worsens in that country. In a signed statement, the bishops highlighted the suffering of Haitians caused by heavily armed bandits, the indifference of their political leaders, and the apparent hesitation of the international community to intervene. The bishops described the past 4 years as the longest and deadliest social, political, and security crises in Haiti's history. They say organized crime has spread to all dioceses and important cities, and the metropolitan region of Port-au-Prince are almost now entirely controlled by armed gangs, expressing concern that the population is being held hostage to the gangs' ruthless violence and more. The bishop said the situation has been made worse by the silence of the government. The bishops are demanding that the authorities and other sectors of the nation end their complicity and some support for the armed gangs, that the police become an ally of the population, and that political, social dialogue be built based on the real needs of the people. Back at home now, 25 of our clergy were on a week-long retreat at the Mayor's Center in Arima, in what Father Robert Christo, Vicar for Communications, described as a time of fellowship, fraternity, and formation. The retreat occurs every second week of October. Father Peter McIsaac, the recently appointed Director of Synodal Transformation, led the talks under the theme Contemplation of the Face of Christ in the Other, using the Beatitudes as the scriptural base. The week also comprised the Sacrament of Reconciliation, Daily Mass, Liturgy of the Hours, and Eucharistic Adoration. We'll take a short break now, and after this break and the trivia question, Dr. Amory Brown, Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs, will join us to talk about the ongoing conflict in Israel and Palestine. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Altos. Well, as promised, we have joining us on-set Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, who will discuss with us a little bit more about the ongoing conflict. Minister, thank you for joining us. And this is certainly a topical issue that came up again last week, Saturday, in a big way. But first up, do we have nationals in Israel at this time who may be seeking to get out? We heard earlier this week that a student was able to get out through the efforts of your ministry. Tell us about nationals in Israel trying to get out.
Yes, thank you, Roger. It's good to be here on your program discussing a topic of critical importance on world affairs and also for Trinidad and Tobago. To answer your question, yes, we have identified a number of nationals of our country in Israel. We are aware that one young lady, a 16-year-old girl, was assisted with the primary efforts of her mother, who was very loving and engaged, and some other supportive stakeholders, was able to move out of Israel to Turkey and then to London, reconnecting with her family, and eventually will make her way to Trinidad and Tobago. So she's safe, and we're very pleased about that initiative. We've identified two other individuals, two other nationals in Israel at this time. One is an adult woman who's been living there for some time and who has indicated that she has made a commitment to remain. Okay. She's in her place of domicile. She's bunkered down, as it were, and very significantly, she's even offered to assist if we identify additional individuals who require a roof over their heads or some other connection or assistance. So that's a good citizen. We've identified one other individual, an adult male, who was on tour in Israel when this flare-up of violence occurred. And so he's currently in a hotel. We're in touch with him. We're in touch with his family and other contacts. And he has a ticket to get out in just under a week.
Okay.
So we're monitoring the situation, trying as best as we can to ensure safety and good advice. And as we did with the young lady, we'd be tracking his flight and just ensuring that everything goes well. In her case, we had our staff and our High Commissioner in London awaiting her when she arrived, provided shelter temporarily until her family came. It takes a lot. There are many moving pieces. But at the core of it is an overwhelming concern on our part for the safety and security of our citizens, while at the same time, as you know, we are concerned about human life, civilian life, international law, and all the other norms to be respected.
And we heard earlier in the program the Archbishop referencing this is an ongoing conflict, and he would have said since the 40s, and some may say even going way back to biblical times. The attack by Hamas, which really controls the Gaza Strip, that Hamas organization, and they are widely regarded as a bit of a terrorist organization. Yes. That was unprecedented when we woke up last Saturday morning to hear about what was happening. And your initial thoughts and reactions to that type of violence?
It's a sense of horror, being really appalled by the atrocities, the ferocity of the violence taking place right now, unfolding on our television screens, affecting real human beings, families who have a value just like ours and our own family. And this applies certainly to the Israeli families who were on a normal day for them, assaulted with coordinated attacks, individuals coming over into Israel, taking hostages, and other very clear violations of international law and norms. And then, right now on our screens, we are seeing the attacks really affecting the people of Palestine. And that is a cause for serious concern as well. So what we're seeing and have seen, I connected very well with the comments of the Archbishop, is a cycle of violence that appears to be ongoing, that is entrenched in that part of the world, and must come to an end at some point. Violence cannot be the solution. Trinidad and Tobago and CARICOM are fully connected to ongoing United Nations efforts. At the Security Council, we have a resolution 242, which calls for a two-state solution, whereby the people of Israel can have a country that is safe and stable, respected and regarded by its neighbors and the international community, where families can exist in peace. And at the same time, the people of Palestine can have their legitimate expectations of nationhood, of safety, peace, security, and development respected as well. We see that as the solution in this scenario.
So that is Trinidad and Tobago and the wider CARICOM's view on the solution?
Absolutely, and that view is held by many in the international community. Unfortunately, that has not become a reality, and unfortunately, we are horrified today by these scenes of violence. And again, going far beyond military combatants, where ordinary civilians are being killed and damaged fundamentally and in the long term. And that is something that we must be concerned about.
And what will it take to bring this situation to some sort of resolution, as you talked about a two-state solution? I guess it obviously means Israelis and the Palestinians have to want that as well. for it to really take action in as much as the international community is pushing for it. You see that? What was progress even being made up to last week Saturday on that or no?
Well, I would say that prior to the weekend, we certainly had an environment where the overt violence and hostility was not as sharp, clearly. We've seen many diplomatic efforts in the past, and more recently, more countries in the region establishing diplomatic relations with Israel, recognizing Israel's right to exist, which is fundamental, and other steps which would have brought some encouragement to those who are in the pursuit of peace. But at the end of the day, there are fundamental realities on the ground that have to change. And clearly, the United Nations needs to have a bit of a stronger role with the aim of helping to avoid scenes such as we are witnessing at this time.
Right. Now, in terms of travel to Israel, you talked about nationals there right now. At the local level, we have several churches and groups in Trinidad that routinely go on pilgrimage to the Holy Land.
Yes.
And I know at least 2 are planned for next year, and the organizers at this point are looking at the situation. What would your best advice be for persons either being part of a group pilgrimage going to the Holy Land, or those who may want to venture in that area on their own or part of a family? Yes. What would you say now?
Roger, I don't have the power to predict the future, and I connect very well with those who would wish to make a pilgrimage, and there may be persons who would be saving all their lives for such a privilege and an opportunity. But what history teaches us is that when there are these types of flare-ups of hostility in the region, it does take some time before anything akin to calm or normalcy is restored. And therefore, we've seen a number of airlines canceling flights in and out of Israel just because of the acute security concerns. I would recommend that those who are planning travel at this time may wish to suspend those plans, closely monitor the circumstances, remain in touch with the relevant authorities, including the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, the representatives of Israel and others in the diplomatic corps, and let us monitor and reshape those plans when it would be the responsible thing to do. At this stage, I would not recommend the pursuit of a pilgrimage or tour. Right. And the recommendation, even with respect to our young lady, the education authorities in Israel, their Ministry of Education, made a recommendation that all foreign students in that country should leave as soon as possible, right, if they can do so. And they were very facilitating and cooperative in ensuring that our young lady was able to leave the country.
And routinely, when persons or groups are going to so-called hotspot areas, do they have to register or inform the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Well, I'm glad you raised this, because there's no compulsion to do so, but there's a strong recommendation. And you don't have to be going to a hotspot, because look at the world as it is. Anywhere can become a hotspot. We've had scenarios in which persons or groups have just gone on simple travel to other parts of the world and have fallen prey to a criminal attack, loss of documents, a sudden illness. We had a member of the media who recently in Central America ran into grave difficulty. And it would be easier to render urgent assistance if we had some foreknowledge and awareness of the movements, and we can put things in place for potential emergencies.
One of the
what I can say, I'm sorry to cross you, is that in the Israel-Gaza scenario, we have published contact information for emergency registration, requests for assistance. So there's an email address. There's also a phone number that we've invited members of the public, those who have some knowledge of a need for emergency assistance, help with movement out of the country, etc. Let us know. We'll do our best.
I saw a story today where the Vatican is offering to mediate for the release of the hostages because some of the Israelis were taken hostage, and the Vatican is offering that. Your initial thoughts on that?
Yes. There should be no scenario in which civilians and families are used as human pawns, as is clearly taking place in the circumstances you're describing. I was very pleased and heartened by the Vatican's offer of assistance to play a role in negotiations, mediation toward preserving the life and securing the safety and freedom of those hostages. I think it's a very good signal to send, and the call for restraint, notwithstanding the understandable passions, emotions, horror that people are experiencing. That call from the Vatican for restraint and peace is very important at this time.
We've talked about violence in the Middle East, but we do have a situation in the Caribbean here in our backyard, Haiti, and a recent call from the bishops in Haiti about calling for an end to the violence and the gang activity. Minister, I know this is a one that's close to our heart, and Haiti is part of CARICOM.
Yes.
What is the situation, as you know, in Haiti, and how do you view this call by the bishops for some kind of help, some kind of assistance in Haiti to stop this violence?
Yes, thank you very much, Roger, and thank you for focusing on this very important topic on your program. Yes, the situation in Haiti is dire. It is a terrible crisis facing the people of that country, where the security situation, the humanitarian situation, access to food, and the basic necessities of life. It's a general calamity. The bad news is that it is getting worse. So we're seeing the gang control being expanded within the Haitian capital and other areas, and the school system, the healthcare system, and other systems within the country are being challenged almost to a point of a lack of functionality. And the fate of women and girls and ordinary families in that country is really would tear our hearts open. Attacks against women and girls, gender-based violence, and inability of persons to live anything close to resembling a normal existence, which we would want for ourselves and our friends and family. So CARICOM has taken a strong position. CARICOM has been working with the Haitian people, Haitian stakeholders, to try to take some of the initial steps that are required to resolve this situation and improve the circumstances for Haiti. This is clearly not something that can be simply imposed from outside. Such mistakes have been made in the past with catastrophic consequences. So it has to involve the Haitian stakeholders. In recognition of this, CARICOM has mobilized an eminent persons group comprised of some former distinguished prime ministers of the region that have been going in, working with stakeholders on the ground in Haiti, including the faith community in that country, to build some consensus as to the steps required toward democratic elections, which are essential, and to lay a foundation for the operations of what we see as the necessary multinational force that would be required to support the Haitian National Police in their efforts to suppress the gang activity in that country. So you would have noted very recently there was a successful United Nations Security Council resolution which gave authority to a multinational force. And there are a number of countries that have committed resources and personnel to the success of that critically important effort. So what I want to say is that the call by the Catholic bishops in Haiti at this time is very important. It adds clarity to some of the confusion that exists, because there are some Haitian stakeholders that have been saying, no, don't send any forces, this is a colonial operation or occupation. But the bishops have very courageously spoken out and said, this is a calamity, the scenario requires urgent attention, and they've expressed support for an operation to come in and assist the Haitians in treating with their crisis.
And the bishops in their statement talked about the complicity of gangs and the complicity of police and the authorities with the gangs. So I guess that makes it a lot more difficult.
It does. It's another important message. You would have noted there some economic actions have been taken against individuals, including business interests, who have been fueling and resourcing some of these unfortunate activities, some senior placed persons within the society. So these are legitimate concerns, and again, the bishops have demonstrated some courage and have given a signal to the wider region and other stakeholders that you're dealing with a complex situation. But that notwithstanding, you are dealing with a situation that requires a sense of urgency from those who would wish to assist.
That's where we have to leave it, Minister. Thank you very much for joining us on the set of Altos. And as you said, it's an ongoing situation that I'm sure a lot of Trinidad and Tobago nationals and the entire world is paying close attention to. Thank you very much, Minister. We'll take a short break and return with more right after this.
Altos, from the Latin altus, meaning high. Every Friday night we feature the top news items hot off the press. We are taking a leap of faith on Trinity TV. Jump in with us for this new and exciting experience.
And welcome back to Altos here on Trinity TV. Well, here's a look at some of the events that are coming up in the Archdiocese. Let's take a look. And we want to urge you to get your copy of the Catholic News. Editor Raymond Sims tells us what's in this week's episode.
In this week's issue of the Catholic News, there's a challenging commentary, synod and hospitality. And writer Kaylan Jordan interviews fearless 15-year-old mountain biker Tyreek Springer, who is out on the trail. I am Raymond Sims, editor of the Catholic News.
Yes, please pick up a copy and even an extra one to share with someone. Well, as we wrap up our program, we remind you that this program is repeated on a Sunday at 3 right here on Trinity TV. And we leave you now with some scenes of our Camzel team on a recent visit to Rio Claro Parish for their feast day and celebration. We thank you for viewing.
Right.
What parish are you representing?
St. Paul, St. Jude, Manzana.
And what made you decide to come with a busload all the way to Rio Claro?
We love the atmosphere, we love the harvest. We will be here every year.
It's always a pleasure to go out and visit with the people of Trinidad, and so we're happy to be here in Father Lindsay celebrating the people of Rio Claro. I am Barry Thomas from Dominica. It's Michelwe from Haiti, study for the Diocese of Dominica. And I'm Samuel Joroge from Kenya, studying for the Archdiocese of Porto, Spain, and I'm happy. And I'm Ansel Iwuchukwu, a Nigerian, studying for the Diocese of Roseau.